Hey, all of you people who are not going to be in class next week. I wanted to take a minute to go over what you're going to miss. So in class next week, or this coming week, what we're going to do is we're in week 15. For your Zoom group, what I want you to do is everyone is going to pick one of the scouting reports to read. I've given you 5 different options, and I'm going to ask you to just read through them and then be prepared to discuss them in your Zoom group. I did explain this in the weekly announcement, but I just want to show you that's there too. So that's what we're going to be doing in the Zoom class, and you can see that. What did you learn? What was interesting? What do you think your classmates need to know? In your face-to-face group, which is the one that you guys won't be here for, go to in-class documents, and we're going to talk about the last bits of your online module. The first thing we're going to actually talk about is the importance of communication. And I'm using this link, the Cult of Pedagogy Distance Learning link. It looks like this red one here. And one thing we did not put in the online module, just because we ran out of time, to be honest, is how you're going to connect with students. So we're just going to discuss this in class. It's really important that you have a clear, consistent, accessible channel for communicating with students and for parents as well. Some things that you need to keep in your mind is that you have to have outgoing communication. So that's how you're communicating information. So this could be asynchronous. For example, how I post weekly announcements every week, how I organize how information is going to flow out from me. So that's something that you need to think about. And you also need to think that whatever you pick is consistent, right? So I always do the Friday message. I try to keep it color coded. Just that consistency it's important anytime, but it's really important when you're not having face-to-face daily interaction with your teachers. You also must have incoming communication. So how are students communicating back to you and parents? So that could be asynchronous as well. Emails, a consistent way of parents have questions for you. It's also really good to have that two-way communication, which is, and that can be synchronous or asynchronous. Basically, that's a way for you to have a discussion, communicating back and forth in a more open way. So obviously, Google has allowed us to do this. Google Hangouts, I know a lot of K-12 schools use Google Hangouts. Microsoft Teams is another way to have that kind of back and forth. This was actually an infographic created by a school talking about video conferencing etiquette, which really is important. I feel like we should have spent some time on that. Discussion boards are really good for back and forth and back channel conversations. And unfortunately, we were going to do some back channel conversations and we just ran out of time. So just read this little description here. So that's the first thing we're going to do in class next week. We are just going to talk about the importance of communication. The second part is we're going to go back to our assignment, creating module, and we're going to talk about this last, I see a spelling mistake. The last part of building your module, and that's how are students going to communicate that they learned what you asked them to learn. So they read the articles you posted, they watched the video, they listened to your podcast, whatever you chose to push out information. So how are you going to have them demonstrate how they learned information? So that's the last piece. And in this Cult of Pedagogy article, it's number 5, maybe, let's see. Yes, number 5, options for demonstrating learning. It says, just as there are many different ways to get the content into students' heads, you can also offer choices as how students demonstrate their learning, right? Kind of feed it back to you. The quickest, most easy, most traditional way is just a quiz, but Technology gives us so many more opportunities. So really what I want you to do, it says, and let me just continue reading. It says, sticking only to tests favors students who work well in that mode, rather than allowing other students to shine in areas they might be stronger in. So Jennifer Gonzalez, the author of this podcast in this article that we're looking at, goes through some fresh ideas for end products. How can you have your students show you that they've learned whatever the content is? And so we're just going to kind of go through some of these. They can create a book, like using Book Creator. They can create a Google tour, which I've never used before, but it sounds really interesting. An infographic. They can create a lesson of their own. They can create a physical model and take some photographs of it. They can create a multimedia collection, which I think is pretty cool, or make their own podcast, or make their own scavenger hunt. They can use sketch notes. They can create videos. They can create their own website on the topic. So there are so many ways that students can create information. And what I want you all to do, hold on a second. What I want you all to do, I want to see how long this pod is. What I want you to create 1 to 2 activities where a student will demonstrate learning across multiple levels of Bloom's taxonomy. So not just answering questions, you know, the higher level. So what does that mean? So what are we going to do in class? So in class, we're going to practice this. And I'm going to actually ask you to choose one of these 2 news ELA articles. And I'm going to ask you to read it. And then I'm going to ask you to demonstrate that you read it. And you can pick from any of those suggestions: Book Creator, infographic, Google slide, any way that Jennifer Gonzalez, sketch note, draw a picture, take a picture of that for me, however you want to show that you've learned that material. Or I've also added this amazing tech guide for teachers here. And this tech guide for teachers also, if you open it up, here, gives you a whole host of other ways. You can see they've got chapters of how kids can demonstrate their learning. So it's totally up to you how you want to do that. Now, what we're going to do in class is we're just going to practice it. So I'd like you guys to do that as well. I would like you to read one of these articles, show me that you read it by demonstrating what you learned, and then just email that to me. The last thing we're going to do in class is we are going to create a class Pecha Kucha, where all I want you to do is contribute 1 slide that represents something that you learned about technology and education from this class. So I will model this for you. Actually, you can see right now, it's blank. Actually has one. So I'll add the first one, because all I want you to do is you add an image, slide. And then I'm going to actually ask everybody to talk through the images in class. So that's going to be a little harder for you guys. Let me think through that one, but I would like you to at least make sure you put a slide. So a slide, and then I'm going to add an image. Right now I'm not going to do it because I'm recording this, but I'll have one in there by the time you pull this up. So please let me know if you have any questions, and I'm sorry you're not going to be in class this week, but I hope this video helps.